a variable to address specific keys on the keyboard along with conditional statements. Before we do that, let's do a quick review of using the keypress Boolean variable to check if any key is true. So what we've covered so far is if we want a function to happen or any action to happen with a conditional, if any key is pressed, we use the keypress built-in variable, which is a Boolean type, so we're checking to see if it is true or false. So we can check to see if keypress equals true. Close the parentheses, open a curly bracket. We want to make sure we leave a little space and close the curly bracket. We still have a second curly bracket closing the whole draw method. And then whatever happens between these two curly brackets will only happen when a key on the keyboard is pressed and held down. So we should add our comments if a key is pressed, and then, for example, we could have ellipse 250, 250, 100 by 100. So when a key is pressed, an ellipse will be drawn while the key is pressed and held down. So we'll run it. No ellipse, press and hold a key, the ellipse is there, let go of the key, the ellipse disappears. Another quick reminder that we talked about only briefly is just a shortcut to make this even briefer. The full and complete condition here is checking to see if the Boolean variable keypressed is true, and we use those two equal signs to check to see if two things are equivalent. However, in this case, if we just put if keypressed and left out equals true, processing understands that it's checking to see if this Boolean variable, which can only be one of two things, it can only be true or false. So if it assumes that we are checking to see if the Boolean has become true, since the default state is false, because we're assuming we're starting without any keys pressed. So this is just a shortcut, a little shorthand for that same thing. So I'm pressing a key, letting it go. Will work. And that's just because it might become handy later if we're using keypress and specific keys together. So now we are using a new variable called key. And the key variable holds characters. So it holds any single number, any single letter, and some of the punctuation. And the character variable, the shortcut when we use it to define and initialize variables is char, because we can define our own character variables. Key is built in though, so we don't need to do anything up top. We don't need to create a new global variable because key is already built right into processing. So I'm going to say if key equals, we need the equals and what follows here part because there's so many different possibilities for the values the key could hold. Again, any number, any letter, and some of the punctuation as well. So we're checking to see, let's say if the key equals, we're going to say E for Aaron. No, we're just going to check to see if the key is equal to the letter E. So that is if it's the E key that has been pressed. Single characters get single quotes. This is important, and this is something that's a very common error that you might find. If you get an error that says cannot match string and char, that's you probably are checking, you probably accidentally put some double quotes around the value, and that won't work because a key is a character variable as opposed to holding a longer phrase. We'll get into all that later, but so we're going to say if key equals E in single quotes, and then I shouldn't have deleted it, but we can put that same ellipse. So this is if the key is equal to the value of E, then it will draw an ellipse. The interesting and slightly different thing about the key variable versus the key press variable is the way the key variable works is if it will store the last value of the last key that was pressed. So if you press the E key, the circle will be drawn, but unlike key press, it's only true when the key is pressed down. The key variable will hold on to that value of E until you hit another key. So now I'm going to hit any other key on the keyboard and the circle will disappear. But that circle remained on screen even after I'd let go of the E key. As I said, key will continue to hold the value of the last key that was pressed. Let's change it. You can use numbers here too. The numbers keys work, so I could say 3. And now if I press the 3 key, the circle will appear, and again, any other key, the circle will disappear. There's other keys that work as well. If you want to use the space bar, you literally just type a space between 2 single quotes, and that will work for the space bar. So we're going to stop here and pick back up in a second part of this video so we can do some animation and movement of shapes using the key, variable, and conditionals.